State of the Sun Devils with Jeremy Schnell, Jesse Morrison, and Mitch Baraldis, an Arizona Sports podcast.
I told our guys there's 2 seasons when you play at ASU. There's the first 11 games, and that's 1 season, and then there's the team down south week, and that's an entirely another season. And you only play 11 regular season games, and then you play 1 other entire season, and it takes 7 days to play it.
Hello and welcome into another edition of State of the Sun Devils alongside Jesse Morrison and Mitch Baraldis. I'm Jeremy Schnell. It's hate week, even though hate's a very strong word, guys. But
I think hate's perfect for this week, but that's just me.
Arizona State taking on Arizona in football. It's always a big week when it comes to the state of Arizona, and this week it's even better because ASU has a chance to get revenge on for what happened in 2014, Mitch.
2014.
That was the last time ASU was in a similar position to Arizona.
Which is what feels like forever ago. And I tell you what, I was in marching band. That was my freshman year of college with Arizona State. And I remember we go down to Tucson Stadium every single year. And they put us all the way at the tippy top of the stadium in like one of the back end zone corners. And there's nothing I remember more but the dread of when that game ended and Arizona had clinched the Pac-12 South as a result of that win. There was nothing I dreaded more than having to make the long trek all the way back down to the bottom of the stadium at like close to 11 at night. It was miserable.
It was a night game? Oof.
Yeah. To double down on just how miserable it was.
I mean, it was a really big game, as this one is going to be.
Territorial Cup should always be played during the day. That's just my opinion. It's like the one time of the year when you can have football in Arizona outside at a really, nice time of day where it's going to be like 65 degrees and sunny. Make sure that it's during the day. Schedule makers every year.
And keep it to Saturdays. I actually like it on Saturday as opposed to on Black Friday.
I agree. I agree.
We got what we wanted, Jesse. Both of us
did. Yeah.
Now, who is going to be the quarterback for Arizona State? That's the biggest question. Jaden Rashada.
Wait, what do you mean? Trenton Bourget?
Maybe Jaden Rashada.
Oh.
On Bickley and Murata this morning, Kenny Dillingham said that Jaden Rashada might get some reps this week.
Might get some reps. That's an interesting thing that I hear there. Might get some reps could range from
starting the
doesn't
game.
Play at all.
Yep.
And it's the smoke screen, whatever, or starts the game and plays the entire game. That's total coach speak for we could see whatever happened. I'm excited to pay attention to the reporting on this. Obviously, you got to follow Gambo, Pete Thamel at ESPN, another person to follow around this, probably Brett McMurphy. Those people I'm going to be dialed into up leading until Saturday because, I want to see him play selfishly. I also I don't want to see him get hurt. Yep. That's the thing that I don't want to happen here because he's the future. He's the future, and they have a beat up offensive line, and I just don't want to see him have some sort of catastrophic injury that keeps him out for the entire season next year. But selfishly, he gives ASU the best chance to win. And so I would like to see him play on Saturday, start on Saturday, play the whole game.
And I think we've agreed all season long, especially more so after the actual first game of the season. But myself, selfishly, was very high on the Rashada idea and the Rashada starting the season idea. After that first game, we really understood that this is the quarterback that gives ASU the best chance to win week in, week out. We didn't necessarily get that against Oklahoma State. Obviously, we found out why it wasn't as good against Oklahoma State for Jaden Rashada because that resulted in the injury. This is exciting, nonetheless. Even if it leads to Jaden's not going to play at all, which is the lower side of the spectrum that Jesse just laid out, even if it means to no playing at all, I'm excited by the idea that he's still mentally and physically involved this late in the season.
We get to speculate, which is fun. I saw from one of the people on Twitter that covers ASU, I think it was Devil's Digest, that he has been cleared for a few weeks, Dillingham said, but they just haven't wanted to put him out there. So, I mean, if he is already that healthy, I mean, I think that we're going to see him play on Saturday. This is a stat that I've known about for a while now. Jaden Rashada is ASU's passing touchdowns leader this season.
With 4.
He played 2 games. No quarterback or running back Cam Scadaboo
or tight end
Jalen Conyers has thrown as many touchdowns as him this season. So, like, he's obviously the choice to give them the best chance to win. And this is their season. This is their Super Bowl. This is their national championship. I don't like. It's just such a conundrum, though. If you're Kenny Dillingham,
I am in the same boat that you are, Jesse. Where selfishly, I kind of want to see him play, and then another part of me is like, well, if he gets hurt, then that's shame on us. Like we put him out there in a game where they're playing against a really, really good opponent, as Arizona has shown the past 5-6 weeks. I'm somewhat worried about him, but at the same time, he's a college kid. He's an athlete. If he's out there, he knows that he is in a good spot to play in this game, Mitch or Jesse.
Here's
Jesse.
What I would do if I was Kenny Dillingham. And I know that Jaden Rashada is a Sun Devil through and through. He grew up as a Sun Devil fan. His dad is a Sun Devil. I believe he's a Sun Devil man. Whatever that story was, where he either drew himself as a Sun Devil or wrote about himself as a Sun Devil as a kid. It was either one of those. This kid likes ASU, and he probably hates U of A. But if I'm Kenny Dillingham, I'm going to sit there, have a conversation with him, and be like, hey, man, this is what could happen in this game. Do you want to play or do you not want to play? Think about next season. Think about the fact that we have nothing to play for other than this game. And I would kind of let him make the call. And if he is so bullish that he wants to play, then you know what? You just got to let the kid do what he wants to do.
Well, this is the balance. And it perfectly set up from the top of the show, the cut that we played going in from Dillingham's press conference. There's the 11-week season, and then there's the 7-day season.
Correct.
So how badly do you, as Kenny Dillingham, let's assume that we know Jaden Rashada desperately wants to play this game. Let's assume. We don't know that for a fact, but let's assume that as a competitor, he wants to go out and compete.
Yes.
The balance for Kenny in this situation is this 7-day season, as he termed it, and the guy that's going to be responsible for the 7-day seasons to come over the next 3, maybe 4 years. How badly do you desperately want this first one? And if it's me, because he and I are both Sun Devil alums, as all 3 of us are as well.
Wait, what?
Oh, sorry. Did I just dox you?
No. I went to ASU.
Proud Sun Devil alum.
The point that I'm trying to
Sun Devil alum.
The point that I'm trying to get at is I'm sure Kenny's desire to just beat the Wildcats is going to take some greater precedent in this scenario, especially if Rashada is performing as well as Kenny is describing at practice this week.
Jesse, give me a little history lesson about the Territorial Cup, would you?
Okay, I will do that. Okay, so...
I know you love history.
I love history. I love sports history. I love, all history. This is the 97th edition of the Territorial Cup.
Wow.
On Saturday. Obviously, it's at 1:30 if you didn't know. It's going to be in Tempe at Mountain America Stadium. The first time it will be at the now Mountain America Stadium.
It's the same stadium
Same stadium, but different name. Frank Kush Field's still the same though. It's going to be on Arizona Sports 98.7, Arizona Sports app, arizonasports.com. So make sure to check it out there. ESPN on TV if you're looking to watch it and not go.
But if you want to watch it and listen to it, here's what you can do. You can watch it, pause it, wait for the whistle to blow, and then when the whistle blows on your radio or on your app or on the .com, just press play.
The.com.
Yeah, perfect. This is the oldest rivalry trophy game in college football. So I believe it was 1899.
But what happened to the trophy, Jesse?
It went missing for over 80 years.
No.
That's crazy.
And they found it at a church in Tempe in the 80s. But they did not start using it again as the official trophy until 2001. So
wait, they found it and then they kept it under wraps for about 20 years?
I guess,
Well,
yeah.
They didn't want anybody to touch it anymore.
Yeah, well, they still
yeah.
don't want anybody to touch it because if you did not know this, the actual cup that they run around with on the field is not the actual
Wait,
territorial
what?
cup.
It's a replica.
That is a replica, and they just move the actual one back and forth between the two schools, no matter, whoever wins it, and then Arizona won last season, obviously 38-35. Very chippy game.
Resulted in some suspensions at the beginning of the season.
Resulted in some suspensions at the beginning of the season. One of those guys transferred too, which is funny that he was that involved in this rivalry game and then decided to go into the transfer portal, it's just very, very funny. And then
Lincoln Riley was not happy.
Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, that was his coach. He transferred to USC, and Lincoln Riley was mad about it.
He's like, my player had to be suspended for a half for what?
Yeah.
Maybe. I was talking about Will Schaefer, who is still here this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, there's another guy that transferred.
Yeah, he transferred in the middle of the season. Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
I love tangents. Go ahead.
it was last year ended ASU's 5-game winning streak, and I just had a question for you guys.
Okay.
Favorite territorial cup memory? There's a lot of fun ones throughout the years. I have a couple on the top of my head, but one stands out over the others. I'll let you guys go first, though.
Well, it certainly wasn't the one that I was recanting about a few minutes ago, where I'm making the sad walk of shame down the entirety of Arizona Stadium. I do remember the first time that they had it in Tempe when I was a student. So this was
2015.
This was 2015.
Yeah.
And
Jeremy's freshman year.
I don't think the implications were as high for ASU at the time. I think the only thing that it would have netted them was a 6th win and a bowl game appearance. And they ended up playing a bowl game at Chase Field, so they ended up not going super far that year.
I think that was the West Virginia game.
Yep.
Okay.
That West Virginia
West
game,
Virginia. We're West Virginia. If you listen to Wolf and Luke, you'll know what I'm doing there.
I just remember the thrill of finally feeling that first victory as a student. Because I'll be honest, before I came to ASU, I didn't have a ton of tie or connection to this particular rivalry.
Sure.
The schools that were a part of my life growing up, one of them was a Pac-12 school, but Stanford and Cal, they have the big game, right? And they play for the Axe. Like, that was as much as I knew. University of New Mexico, sorry, Mom, they never really had the best football program.
What? New Mexico State, not a huge rivalry?
I know. So up until
Now they might have one with Auburn.
up until that 2015 game, that was a good one. Good reference.
$1.8 million to lose.
I didn't really have a full understanding of this rivalry, but after not only the loss in 14, but then the first win in 15, that was when I truly understood how much this rivalry means. And then I think when they won in Tucson with Manny Wilkins in his swan song year, that was a pretty cool way to end that season.
I think Jesse's probably going to be at the top of your list because you were there for that game. The comeback with Eno
I'll get into
Benjamin
it.
and Manny Wilkins.
I'll get into it.
I will say the game in 2015, Mitch, what I remember most about that game is they refused to throw deep the entire season.
Yeah.
And then Bercovici just let it loose in the final game of the season. They finally were able to get some deep balls going. I think Tim White had a touchdown reception, if I remember correctly.
See, that was a weird season too, because remember they start with the neutral site game in A&M.
That's right.
And there's all the hype.
Well.
There's all the hype around Mike Bercovici because he's remembered for the play against
The Hail
USC.
Mary, yeah.
Yes. And they lose to Kyle Allen's Texas A&M squad, Kevin Sumlin. More on him.
Kyler Murray played in that game. Kyler Murray played in that game.
So
For
much.
Texas A&M.
It's crazy. Sorry.
Christian Kirk also played in that game.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite memory?
Sagu legend.
I mean, I like all those 70-7. The one that you're going to bring up is probably my favorite. The comeback, Eno Benjamin, the kick at the end of the game, the win. all that.
Okay, so for me, it's definitely that one, the 41-40 game in 2018. This is kind of why, too. It goes beyond just the game. First off, it was at Arizona, which was super fun to go in there and beat them. It was my last game I have attended as a fan. I have attended every single game that I have attended since then as a media member. And that was the last one I attended as a fan. And so it just always sticks with me that, like, and I don't really see a time when I'll ever attend another ASU game as a fan in the near future at all, really. And so, like, that will always stick with me. And that comeback was great. And what was the best part about it is I was with my parents. They came for Thanksgiving that year. And we were there, and my dad was like, "Oh, we should leave." It was like 41-24 in the fourth quarter, or 40-24 in the fourth quarter. And my dad and I was like, "No, Dad, this is the Territorial Cup," or I think I said something like that. I was like, "No, Dad, this is the Territorial Cup. We need to stay here. We need to wait around. Anything could happen. You never know." And I ended up being right. Which is funny because just a year prior to that, he was trying to change the channel when Tom Brady and the Patriots were down to the Atlanta Falcons.
No way.
So, like, it was just another time that I proved my dad wrong, that you've got to wait out these games and anything can happen.
Are you done beating down your dad for 5 seconds?
Yeah, who cares? I mean, he'll get over it.
Can I tangent real quick? Because
Yeah.
the 70-7 game, I don't know if you guys heard quotes from Jedd Fisch this week. That 70-7 game is kind of the crux of this iteration of the rivalry. Meaning, when Jedd Fisch took over, everybody knows the reason he took over is because of that game. And, like, he understood that from day one, was part of what he was saying. For Kenny, he's taking over, long before the Territorial Cup would have been the reason that he took over. But what Sean Aguano was able to do for the guys last year, he kept them very competitive in that game. It wasn't necessarily the most fun game to watch because of just how it was going, but Sean Aguano did a very good job keeping those guys motivated for what was essentially a lost season.
Seemingly too motivated toward the end of the game.
A little too motivated.
And it was 70-7. That would have probably been my favorite, except
No one could attend it.
Yeah, I wasn't there. I wasn't I at the time I was working for Devil's Digest, and I talked to my boss about it, and about going, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be lucky to get my videographer in there." So I was like covering the game from my bed, like I was like lying in bed, like tweeting out things from, so that was not as fun for me. It was great, but it was not as fun for me as actually being in the stadium and having that memory. Like, being in the stadium there's nothing like it.
See, that's what I mean. Is like that was probably one of the grander victories in Territorial Cup history, and there's the billboard sign that went with it afterwards. But nobody, or a grand majority of individuals on both sides, did not get to be a part of that experience because of the time we were living in at that exact moment.
Yeah, and the teams played a combined 10 games that year total.
Yeah.
It was really the only real highlight of that season in general because of all of the, missed games because of COVID, and now what we found out, was reportedly going on behind the scenes that year. That was really the only highlight of that entire time, and really was the only thing that made that entire even playing that year worth it. But that leads into what I think. I mean, Jeremy can probably take us to the actual matchup now.
I was going to say one more thing about the rivalry in general. To what it means to the fans. I mean, I'll say for myself, Thanksgiving is my mother's favorite holiday, and she wants me to come home every year if I can. I would say, okay, but I need to be back for the Territorial Cup. I need to be back in Arizona for the So every year that it was in Arizona when I was in school, when it was in Tempe, I mean, for when I was in school, I would fly back the very next day and make sure that I made it to the Territorial Cup.
Yeah, I remember the first Territorial Cup that we went to. I believe you flew in 2 hours before kickoff on that Saturday, and I was like, "You gonna make it?" And you made it.
I was there,
or believe something like that was what we were communicating about 6 years ago. But anyway, that takes me to my next point that will lead you to transition to the game itself. 2020 was only 3 years ago, and there are some guys on that U of A team that were on the 70-7 team, and now they are a ranked football team, and I think that they might be coming into Sun Devil State or Mountain America Stadium looking for, some revenge.
They're out for blood.
Some blood. They're out for blood. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
There you go.
Maybe even some literal blood, because it is the territory.
Let's not take it that far.
Calm down.
I don't disagree, but let's not take it that far.
A friendly brawl that might lead in, a little bit of a cut on the nose or whatever.
Jeez,
that can happen.
What is this, WWE? Come on, man.
No, it's the Territorial Cup. We've seen them brawl.
All right.
I'm not wrong about this.
You're obviously ready to talk about this Saturday, so Jeremy, go ahead.
All right. Arizona could clinch a spot in the Pac-12 championship game with a win and an Oregon loss to Oregon State.
But they did win the Pac-12 South, so they got that going for them.
Nobody cares.
I know.
That doesn't even matter anymore.
They beat Utah last week, 42-18. Thumped Utah last week, really.
There is one caveat to what you just said, though. If Oregon beats Oregon State on Friday, which they are home, they don't have to go to Corvallis. You never want to go to
Corvallis in November.
Corvallis. If Oregon beats Oregon State, then U of A has no chance of going to the...
I just said that.
I thought you didn't.
Yeah, no, I said Oregon has to lose to Oregon State.
Okay. You want me to say it a third time just in case?
I got a lot of takes, and...
Arizona's 8-3. They're the number 15 team in the country.
Can we just pause on that for a second? Because they're on a 5-game winning streak, correct? It's crazy to think of how quickly football can turn like a season around. We see it in the NFL all the time. In this example right here, Arizona goes from 3-3 to now 8-3. And on the verge of maybe a return to the Pac-12 championship in the final year. That's just insane to me.
If the Rose Bowl was not a college football playoff game this year, they would have a very good shot at making it to the Rose Bowl.
And they have a very good shot of making it, probably, I would say...
Vegas Bowl.
Fiesta Bowl would be
possibly even
what
Fiesta
they
Bowl.
Might do if the loser of the Pac-12 championship game will probably end up being the Fiesta Bowl team, unless they want to put, if Oregon loses to Oregon State and they want to put Oregon in and not put the loser of the Pac-12.
Well, so what would the hierarchy would be? Whoever wins gets Alamo, correct? Or if Washington stays in the top 4, they would get one of those 4, which Rose Bowl is included this year, correct?
They would get in the playoff. Yeah. I think whoever wins is going to get into the playoff.
So then the loser of that Pac-12 championship game would get Alamo Bowl, most likely.
I think they could get Fiesta Bowl. I think that's how good this conference has been this year.
Okay, but like
a New Year's Six.
The big 3 would be because Washington made it into the top 4 yesterday in the latest CFP, and if they hold on, I imagine nothing's going to kick them out. They get a playoff game. Let's say Oregon goes Fiesta because Fiesta is one of the high end bowls, and then. What, Arizona goes to the Alamo Bowl?
Alamo Bowl would probably be the best.
Sun Bowl, excuse me. Alamo Bowl, Sun Bowl, or Vegas Bowl.
Yeah, there's also like the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl, which I think is
no, it's the Rob Gronkowski Bowl.
I think it's now the Rob Gronkowski
You think the
Bowl.
former U of A tight end wants to bring his alma mater to L.A.?
Yeah, I mean, I do, but that's also kind of a lower level bowl game, so I don't see that happening. It'd probably be Alamo or Vegas. But again,
you also have to deal with Oregon State being pretty good too. So
exactly, yeah.
You don't know. It's all
just crazy to think about.
The conference is so good this year. There are so many teams in this conference that are bowl eligible that there are not enough bowl games that are the usual Pac-12 bowl games.
I'll tell you what.
Around.
And doesn't it all the great football play that we're seeing this year get you excited about next year's Pac-12? Oh, sorry. Forgot that's not really going to be a thing next year.
Going to be a fun season in the Big 12 ACC, Big 10 Mountain West.
Pac-2 West Mountain? Pac Mountain 2 West.
It's been
Pac
wide.
Mountain, I love that. Is it Pac Mountain or Mountain Pack?
It's the Pacific Mountain, baby.
Pack 6.
Well,
the 6-pack.
They have been talking about how it's most likely that Washington State and Oregon State are going to go to the Mountain West as football-only schools.
Right, which would be they would be independent technically. They would play
They can join the Notre Dame conference.
Yeah, so basically they would play a Mountain West schedule, but not be eligible to play in the Mountain West championship game.
That's stupid.
Yes,
It's just for one.
Just join the
year,
Mountain
I'm
West.
Sure.
no, and then the Mountain West therefore would not be eligible to get an at-large bid, or to get a.
Well, they
automatic-
would just become the fifth
automatic.
power.
They would
right?
No.
The Mountain West would not be eligible to get an automatic bid into the college football playoffs. They would have to become an at-large bid, is what I meant, which would be weird
Yeah.
because there are some good schools in that conference.
Yeah, I don't. It's all confusing. It's all just going to end up being like a 64-team super conference at some point in like 10 years. That's just my prediction. Anyway. What's next?
Noah Fafita, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 73% completions percentage.
The dude's absurd.
He's been very good, and U of A's been looking for that quarterback for a while now, and they've seemed to have found it with Noah Fafita, Jesse.
Yeah, Noah Fafita, he's finally the guy there. Like, they tried it with Jaden Delora. They've tried it with Khalil Tate. Like, I remember when Khalil Tate was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, like, leading into the college football season.
Heisman candidate, Khalil Tate.
Heisman candidate, Khalil Tate.
Didn't he try and play wide receiver in the NFL?
I'm really not sure.
I know he was in the XFL, possibly.
Look, I don't have his
USFL.
poster on my wall or anything.
I mean, I really don't know anything about what happened to Khalil Tate after
I'm on it.
he left Arizona. But, if anybody wants to put it in the comments section on YouTube and,
Khalil Tate, update.
Go for it. U of A fans that totally, definitely watch our podcast. Yeah, but, man, Fafita, he's the guy. Like, he's the reason I think that they have this team has clicked. Like, it seems like they found their mojo when he became their starting quarterback.
He was an Edmonton Elk this year.
Cool.
Nice job, Tate.
Argonaut last year, as well as an Elk last year.
Oh, so he's Canadian Football League.
Yeah, but he was also a Philadelphia Eagle.
Oh.
What position is he playing?
Quarterback / wide receiver.
Interesting. He's the Cam Scadaboo of the CFL.
He should do indoor football next. I think that's his next career move.
Speaking of which, a former ASU quarterback is playing this year for the Northern Arizona Wranglers. The former backup to Manny Wilkins.
Blake Barnett?
No, the other
Brady White?
The other former backup to
Paul Tyson.
Dylan Sterling Cole. There you go.
DSC.
DSC is playing for the Northern Arizona Wranglers this year, so I'm excited to see him. I always thought he had a cannon. That guy, cannon. I don't know if it was accurate, but he had a cannon.
I'll tell you what, getting back to Fafita and using cannon as a transition, dude's got a bit of an arm too. Doesn't always use it. He's done a very good job in terms of making sure that the offense stays on the field and stays on the field for a long time, because they have an established rushing attack too. So they don't always have to fall back on Fafita, and I think that has served to Arizona's advantage of being able to balance the two aspects of the offense in order to build this 5-game winning streak that they're on. But absolutely, a ton of credit goes to Noah Fafita in this respect.
Yeah, and Tetero McMillan and Jacob Cowing have kind of been a two-headed monster for them, Jesse.
Yeah, if you can call somebody that's a wide receiver that's averaging 7.3 yards per reception a monster, then Jacob Cowing is that guy. I mean, he has 10 touchdowns.
He gets them. He gets them where they need to go, which is on the field.
Exactly.
Occasional Michael Wiley appearance too.
Yards per,
yes, exactly. Michael Wiley.
It's basically Jarvis Landry.
Sure. Is he still in the league?
No.
That's a bummer. He flamed out
Jarvis
real
Landry
quick.
did everything 7 yards at a time.
Exactly. Yep.
He walked to lunch 7 yards at a time. Okay, I'm not going to do this. Jonah Williams, 118 attempts, 834 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
Another true freshman and another guy that just basically had an opportunity available to him and literally grabbed the bull by the horns, took it. Him and Fafita have been a big part of why the offense has been so successful for them.
Here's what ASU has to do in this game to
Not lose.
From what I saw against Utah from Arizona, and Utah's got a very good defense, and they blew out Utah. Big play. Mm-hmm. Their scoring plays were a lot of big plays in that game. So ASU's got to limit the big play, which they did not do well last week against Oregon, especially on that 48-yard touchdown pass from Bo Nix. So they can't let that happen again. They've got to make sure to limit that stuff, or it's going to be a long day for the Sun Devils.
What ASU team are we going to see? Are we going to see the team that beat UCLA in the Rose Bowl? Or
yes.
Are we going to see the team that lost to Oregon by a whole bunch last week, man?
Well, we'll circle back to our top story from this podcast. Who's the quarterback going to be? Because I think that, honestly, there's that much of a difference that can be made when you have Jaden Rashada under center as opposed to Trenton Bourguet.
Or Cam Scatterby.
Because, that was leading into my next point, is that when Trenton has been the quarterback, he hasn't always been the one under center. He hasn't always been the one taking the snap. I mean, in the Oregon game, they almost abandoned Trenton halfway through the first quarter because they were getting blown out by 3 touchdowns at that point.
Yeah, I mean, we can argue, and we have kind of argued on this podcast, that Trenton is not as good as the running back on the team at playing quarterback.
Even Jalen had a pretty nice throw against Oregon.
Yeah, exactly.
Scatterby threw a ball 70 yards last week.
Yeah.
In the air. I don't know how that happens from a running back. He's never played quarterback in his life, he said.
Yeah. So to be able to have
70 yards?
Our running back QB punter.
You saw this last week. I was at my aunt and uncle's house. I was explaining to them that our running back plays quarterback and punter, and our tight end plays running back and quarterback. How weird is that?
I'm sure they had a great time just following along and staring at your face the whole time, wondering what you just said.
Yeah, they did.
Because that's what it feels like trying to explain this offense the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it work. We've seen it work against UCLA. So if Jaden Rashada does not play, I could see it still potentially working, just because I feel like these guys are going to be extra motivated because it's the Territorial Cup, because it's the rivalry game. But I do think that they have the best chance if Rashada plays, and they can actually air it out and have some big plays.
But the aspects that won them the UCLA game was not the offense. Yeah, they had some sets that were it's the swinging gate set that they ran that a couple of times.
The dilly.
I think the broadcast crew was calling it the dilly.
The dilly.
And it was just however they were lined up, there was the dilly
right,
left or the dilly right. Yeah. But the other aspect of that UCLA win is they were on their third quarterback, and the defense shut their butts down. And we did not get that against Heisman favorite Bo Nix a week later, because he's Heisman favorite Bo Nix, who threw for 6 touchdowns in the first half.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Noah Fafita is going to go Bo Nix level God mode or whatever, but he's certainly not going to be calling Schley. He's going to be somewhere further away from Schley, but not too close to Nix, if that makes sense. Defense is going to have their hands tied for most of the day.
Let's get into around Sun Devil athletics before we get into our predictions. Men's basketball came back to beat UMass Lowell 71-69 last Thursday. At BYU in the Vegas Showdown tomorrow at 10 p.m.
Hold on. Attention, men's basketball players. Please make your free throws.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say that. That's all. That's really my take. And
they were 51% from the line.
Jeremy will say the bad news if you haven't heard it.
Yeah, Sean Phillips is out for
this sucks.
A little bit.
Yeah, mid-foot sprain, which doesn't sound fun.
No. It's one of those. We don't have a timeline for Sean Phillips injuries, which definitely makes me far more nervous than I would have been if it was just something that they had given a timeline on. But they haven't, which... It sucks. It really sucks because he was playing awesome.
Women's basketball lost to Grambling State last Thursday, but hey, they bounced back with the best performance of their season, won 72-40. Jesse, you were there against Idaho State.
Yeah, they played Mallory Miller a lot more in that game, the freshman from South Dakota, and she really played well. She was super active defensively. I think they've got a put her into the rotation more. She's got some size, and again, just a very active defensive player, long. That would really help them moving forward, I feel like, and it helped them defensively. That was their best defensive performance I've seen since Charlie was there.
And now they head to the U.S. Virgin Islands for the U.S. Virgin Islands Paradise Jam against number 12 Texas. So it doesn't get very easy.
That's the big one. That's the one where we're going to see actually how good this team is.
Volleyball split with Oregon and Oregon State over the weekend. They have number 11 Washington State in Pullman at 1 p.m. today, and Arizona at 5 p.m. in Tucson on Saturday. They stayed at number 18 in the country.
Yeah.
Again, just an outstanding turnaround this year for this volleyball team, man.
For reference, today we're speaking in terms of recording this on a Wednesday morning. So if you're like, today, what's today? Is it Thursday? No, it's Wednesday, the 22nd of November.
Yep.
I love what I've seen. And look, we've talked a lot about the demise and the fallout of Ray Anderson in terms of his tenure with Arizona State. Again, I go back to the one thing that he did very, very well is uplifting some of these Olympic sports. And indoor volleyball has been the latest example of a fantastic hire by Ray Anderson, bringing in J.J. Van Niel, and what J.J. has been able to do for this program, elevating them to a national level. And Jesse, I know you've mentioned that there's going to be a lot of turnover for them next year, but in JJ we trust, it feels like at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
And Marta Levinska. Keep killing, literally.
ASU hockey moved up to number 13. They're a top 15 team in the country right now.
Good.
Here in Arizona, we have a top 15 men's hockey team.
Yeah, and this weekend's huge.
They played number 7 Providence at home on Friday and Sunday.
One of the historically better hockey programs in college athletics, too.
So that is going to be fun. All right, real quick. Turkey. Ham or turkey?
It's definitely turkey on Thanksgiving for me. Mitch, what do you think?
Turkey.
I like turkey, but I like steak better.
What is this?
Steak on Thanksgiving?
What's wrong with that? What's the problem? My mom makes me steak.
It's
I'm
just
gonna
so.
eat it. What do you think?
Like,
I'm just gonna say no?
You get up, and on Thanksgiving, and you're like, I want the bird, and I want the stuffing, and I want all that stuff.
Well,
and
put
this
the
guy
chicken and the turkey and the
and you get the turducken. But anyway,
go boom right here, and the duck goes in the turkey, and the turkey goes in the chicken. Boom.
And Jeremy gets up and he's like, you know what? I want some A1 sauce today. That's what I want on Thanksgiving.
A1
sauce.
I need some more sodium for my sodium.
I need some more sodium. That's what Jeremy gets up on Thanksgiving and does that.
What's your favorite Thanksgiving food, Mitch?
Ooh. Take me to dessert. The pumpkin pie is by far my favorite.
Okay.
As far as the Thanksgiving food goes.
So people in Arizona will find this weird because it's not a seafood state, but back home in Virginia, we have a lot of seafood stuff.
Lobster?
Wait,
crab?
so seafood is okay to eat on Thanksgiving?
Yes, because it's
and steak isn't.
It is a Morrison family tradition that we have. The
This is just as weird.
scalloped oysters. Look it up. It's delicious.
My favorite food is the mac and cheese.
Okay,
There you go.
That's good.
That's okay.
I also want to.
That's a standard, actually okay Thanksgiving food.
There you go.
I also want to shout out the Varelda's family recipe corn souffle.
Are you going to give me the recipe?
No, it disappears in an instant every single
I thought
Thanksgiving.
you were saying the recipe disappeared.
We lost it. We don't know what happened to it. We found it in a church in the 1980s.
Wow.
Look what I did there. All right, what's next?
What's your favorite tradition, Jesse?
I mean, just watching football all day, I think, is for me. I just love watching.
You like to go outside and toss the pigskin around a little bit?
I do, yeah. You got to go outside, toss the pigskin around a little bit. My new favorite tradition, and we'll get into this, is I've kind of moved away from the late night NFL game, and I watch maybe the craziest rivalry in college football, which is the Egg Bowl between Ole Miss and Mississippi State. It's always
So
on
much
Thanksgiving. So much cowbell, so much just ridiculous stuff happens in that game that it's just like there's so many stupid personal foul penalties. Watch the Egg Bowl if you get the chance. I was going to
say, never forget when DK Metcalf did the lifting his leg.
No, I think it was touchdown. I think he did that, and then another guy.
I think it was DK.
No, another guy did it a few years later.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm avenging you, DK, but then he also got penalized for it.
It's so good. It's like the stupidest rivalry ever. But if you get the chance to watch the Egg Bowl, watch the Egg Bowl.
Mitch, you have a favorite tradition, or did we hit it?
Well, I mean, the football is one thing. It gives me an excuse to just sit on the couch and do nothing. But particularly this time around, like, I'm going to be flying out on the morning of, so I'll probably be missing a majority of the Lions
Good luck
game.
flying. I mean, like, there's so...
But on Thanksgiving, though. Most people are leaving today.
There's going to be so much traffic still. It's going to be terrible. I'm sorry.
Whatever.
I apologize.
But yeah, spending time with the family. Exactly. That's probably number one.
Yeah, I'm happy. My family will be here this year, and I'll get to spend time with them as well.
What are we thankful for, though?
Oh, man. ASU football?
I was thankful for a Diamondbacks World Series run. That was pretty cool.
That was really fun to get to cover that. I'm thankful for my family, for health, and for Arizona Sports 98.7. You can tune into the Arizona Sports app and arizonasports.com for all the latest information and highlights and everything you need
Sick
to know.
plug.
I'm thankful
Jeremy just wants you to watch his videos.
I'm thankful for this podcast. I really enjoy doing it. I enjoy doing it with you guys, even though we go back and forth sometimes here.
Yeah, but that's just part of the fun. Predictions. Mitch, the Territorial Cup is here. U of A.
So this
ASU.
This is like
Tempe, Arizona.
Sorry, I killed your momentum. This is like when an NFL team plays its division game, whether it's the very first game of the year or like middle of the season or end of the year division game. And my philosophy is that anything can happen, especially given the talent of these two teams. I don't think that this one's going to be a blowout.
I would hope not.
But I also don't think that this is going to be like barn doors are open and both teams are just running all over one another. So I'm going to say this one stays close, but lower scoring. So I'll give it a 28-25 in favor of the home team.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
Oh, wow. You're picking ASU.
Well, what? I'm going to pick the team that I've never rooted for my entire life?
Yeah. I've got...
Just trying to be like...
Yeah, I mean, I've got
We're trying to be unbiased journalists. I'm sorry.
I've just got to be a realist here,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
U of A is better, and it's going to be a 31-21 victory for U of A.
I got 24-17 U of A. I think it's going to be a fun matchup. I think Rashada's going to play. I think he's going to keep them into it. And I think Scadaboo's going to actually be able to play some running back in this game. So I think that's
Woo,
going to help a little bit.
yippee.
And maybe DeCarlos Brooks would be nice to see.
that as well, yep.
So he was a practice repping with the ones, I think,
Yeah.
from Devil's
Nice.
Digest report.
So does that mean that Scadaboo was practice repping at quarterback with the ones?
I was going to say, wait a minute. Maybe we have to start the whole pod over and talk about DeCarlos Brooks.
I don't have time to start the pod over.
That's going to do it for this edition of State of the Sun Devils. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Threads.
We have threads.
At AZ Sports Devils, we make it very easy for you. You can find all the information, all of the highlights, everything you need to know about the Territorial Cup that's coming up on Saturday. We will be there. Mitch will be there. Jesse will be there. I will be there. It's going to be a fun game. Please stay tuned for all of those updates. You can also see this. Hi, guys. Wave. You can see this on YouTube, this podcast. Most of our podcasts are on YouTube. So go to the Arizona Sports YouTube page and find us there. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. For Mr. Reldis and Jesse Morrison, my good friends, I'm Jeremy Schnell.
Good friends.
We'll talk to you on Saturday.
Happy Thanksgiving.